welcome back to the Pylon Camp YouTube channel, and welcome back to Mock Draft 9.0. I am your host, Mike, and we have another mock draft today. It is Black Monday, so the firings are coming in by the boatload, and I am not kidding when I say by the boatload. I think casualties so far this morning, Ryan Pace, Matt Nagy, Mike Zimmer, and Brian Flores. I don't really agree with the Brian Flores firing, but very interesting. And it kind of changes the draft dynamic because that was the real reason why Deshaun Watson wanted to come to Miami was Brian Flores. But anyways, I have my Twitter notifications set on. They're on. I don't really know what they're set on to, but I see everything. And if anything comes up, I will tell you guys as it happens. Anyways, pick number 1, we have the Jaguars. So I was thinking about this, and I'm not drafting. Like, this draft isn't going to be just to change it up and have like a different video per se, but this draft is going to be a little bit different. I really wanted to shake up the first 3 picks and kind of see the collateral it has throughout the draft. And I did a test run of this, and it got really interesting. So this is all like possible. And it could shape out this way because, remember, we're not going to do trades. But please, like, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff. And we'll do trades when it gets closer to the draft. But in this video, these are just possible avenues of how the drafts could end up. Anyways, with pick number 1, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars. I have said this for the past 3 or 4 videos now. I would trade this pick again for someone to protect Trevor Lawrence. I think if you draft an Aiden Hutchinson, if you draft a Kayvon Thibodeau, your team gets better, but you need to invest to protect your biggest investment, your highest, your most prized asset, your asset that could yield the most return is Trevor Lawrence, because you expect him as this generational talent, this generational player to lead your franchise to win Super Bowls. Getting your defense edge help makes you better, but it doesn't make Trevor Lawrence better. So for that reason, I told you it got a little spicy when I did a little test run of this, but the Jaguars are going to take Evan Neal, first player off the board, just because Evan Neal has the flexibility to play right or left tackle at an elite level. And yeah, I just think that I think in this universe and in any other draft class, he could be a number 1 prospect. I think he really is a number 1 prospect in this class, and I think a team like the Jaguars really would love to have an Evan Neal to anchor their offensive line for years to come. At pick 2, we have the Detroit Lions. I think this is Aiden Hutchinson, and here's the caveat, right? Aiden Hutchinson, and I guess it doesn't really matter too much, but like Aiden Hutchinson did say he does not want to play in Detroit. If I'm the GM, I don't care. I'm still drafting him. I guess I can't say that, because if he does, I don't know. He doesn't seem like he would be too much of a mental case. I think he'd still play as hard as he could for the Lions, but he did say he did not want to play for Detroit. So something just to watch out for. So we're going to take Hutchinson at pick 2. I think he's going to be their second. A lot of Lions fans have been commenting on this video. In last draft, we drafted Stingley number 2. And a few of them explained to me that their secondary, like, the pick was still valid and it still was a good avenue. A lot of people liked it. But said their secondary is better than I gave them credit for, which is totally fine. But their secondary is a lot better than I gave it credit. So with that being said, edge is the best position to go. However, I'll push back on it again. And really, when I've been like analyzing these prospects, there are a lot of, like, this draft class is the most saturated at O-line and edge, right? Like, you have players like Jermaine Johnson. Let's just pull up the edge. They have players like Jermaine Johnson, Drake Jackson, Myjai Sanders, Kingsley Enagbare, Arnold Ebiketie, some of them, when it comes testing, like some of them could be first-round draft picks as of right now, and some of them come testing could move up into that first, like Drake Jackson could move up into that first-round talent range, but it's so saturated that players are going to fall. So with the Lions, like you're picking early each round. If you took Stingley and then took Jermaine Johnson or a wide receiver in the second round, like you're not really losing out on anything. Like that's the kind of the beauty of being in the position the Lions are in, but it's also like you could draft a bust. So always be mindful of that. At pick 3, I think the Texans, with how well Davis Mills has been playing, he just threw for like another 3 touchdowns this past weekend against the Titans. They almost won that game. Like I'm telling you, man, like Davis Mills is for real. Like I don't want to say like he's the truth or anything, but like to me, he's already at that like he's better than Sam Darnold and he's better than Drew Lock. Like he's already in that tier for me, and I think he's right on tier with how Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, and Justin Fields have played this year. Like I don't see that much of a gap between the two. Now, obviously, there's the intangible gap of Trey Lance's athleticism, Justin Fields' athleticism. But, like, as in terms of a passer, like, he has really, really, really impressed me. But, again, like, my standards for him were pretty high because the only reason he fell was because of knee concerns. So, like, to me, like, you have a first-round talent who your only concern is a knee injury. Like, like, you should not be surprised when he's balling out. What you should be surprised is he's balling out on the freaking Texans. And their O-line is so banged up. But to my point, the O-line is so banged up, and you really want to see what you have in Davis Mills because I think he can be like an Alex Smith type player potentially. It depends who you put around him. And for that reason, Ike Mekwonu is still on the board. Again, like Kayvon Thibodeau, you could go edge. But I think for the Texans, like, like your team puts up points right now, and you're way more competitive than people want to give you credit for. Like, yes, you got blown out here and there, but like you just dropped, I think, 28-24 on the Titans, and that's a division game. Like, you might be able to compete for the division sooner than later, and you're gonna trade Deshaun Watson. You probably will finish with pick 13 when you trade Deshaun Watson. So you have pick 3 and pick 13. Like, I'm telling you, bro. So like, if you get pick 13. It would make sense to take Stingley or an edge rusher because then you could just you could take O-line at pick 13, right? But because we're doing it for right now and we're not assuming they have pick 13, we're just going to go off of what they have. I'm going to take Ike Mekwonu because like you either have your left tackle or your left guard of the future. You have Laramie Tunsil and Marcus Cannon. So like, yeah, they're both on IR, but you need guard help. You probably are going to trade Laramie Tunsil. I think you need to start investing in the O-line because like again like it's not that bad right now, but it could get a lot better, and like to me like that's the avenue to go. It just makes the most sense. So again, like the collateral I was talking about changes everything. Pick 4, you have the New York Jets, and they need edge help. They also need O-line help, but I think if KT fell to them at pick 4, like they're not gonna. Like, that's their pick. I think pretty much if the Giants would make the same pick, definitely the Falcons. Like, I think a lot of these teams would pick up KD in a heartbeat if he fell past 3. Like, if he fell to any of these teams, like, they're going to take him. He's potentially that good. Then the Giants at pick 5, both of their ideal players are off the board in Ike Mekwonu or Evan Neal, which shakes it up because now, like, you have Charles Cross, but I think the gap between Charles Cross and Evan Neal is really, the gap between Charles Cross, Ike Mekwonu, and Evan Neal is really, really vast. I think it's a huge gap. And then you have Kenyon Green, like, yeah, he could be that good because he could potentially be your right tackle of the future or your right guard or your left guard, but he can't play center. And I haven't done this. Like I think I've done this once. I think if you're picking at pick 5, like you want the player with the most maximum upside. And for me, like that is David Ojabo. I think David Ojabo could potentially be. Like I really think if he gets the proper development, which he won't get at the New York Giants, he could be better than Aiden Hutchinson, and he could be better than Kayvon Thibodeau. He is so raw, and he's still so productive and efficient. Like, you're just scratching the surface with him. Like, you really don't. And, like, the Giants desperately need to get Azeez Ojulari and Quincy Roche help. So, like, this is going to create so much help for their defense. And likely Patrick Graham will be he won't be fired, but he will likely leave the New York Giants because they're probably a team that's going to clean house. Anyways, pick 6. I think at pick 6, and like I said this last video too, like with how much you've invested in Sam Darnold, and you're going to keep Matt Rule, who's obsessed with Sam Darnold. I think this is tackle, and I think you're going to draft Charles Crosby just because, like, you gave a 2nd, a 4th, and a 6th, and in this quarterback class, do you really want to put your franchise guy behind that O-line, where I think, like, there's a good chance you could get Desmond Ridder or Malik. Oh, well, you don't have your 2nd. See, I was going to say, like, you could draft Desmond Ridder or Malik Willis in the 2nd round, but you can't because you don't have your 2nd round pick. So, I don't know, man. I think in a draft where you can't really invest to help your franchise quarterback, it's not the smartest move to take your franchise quarterback and, like, feed him to the wolves, so to speak, because I think there's only 2 occurrences that I could think of in recent memory of where it worked, which was Kyler Murray and Justin Herbert. Like, I don't think the Panthers are well coached enough or anybody's that talented in this class to overcome the Panthers front offensive line. Anyway, at pick 7, I think for the Giants moving forward, they need to, since their offensive line has been in the bottom 30s for the past 3 years, they really need to get someone who's going to make that line is going to be a cornerstone piece like Andrew Thomas moving forward. And as much as I love the versatility of Kenyon Green and they need a right tackle, for me, I think Tyler Linderbaum makes a lot of sense because he's going to be your center of the future. He's going to be potentially that quarterback of the offensive line where if you move off of Daniel Jones in 2023 or 2022 even, this kid's going to be there to make sure he's calling out protections and doing everything right. Like, I think for the Giants, like, you got to take him if you're going to gamble on an edge rusher and not take another offensive lineman. At pick 8, we have the Falcons, and with the Falcons, I think they need to get corner help as much as they need edge, but Derek Stingley's still on the board, and A.J. Terrell I think he did get into the Pro Bowl, had a Pro Bowl season. He's out there by himself in coverage. They really, really, really need edge help, though, so like that's where I'm kind of torn. Falcons fans, you could kind of have a field day with this pick if you don't like it, but I think that, to me, it's edge or corner, right? Like, I don't think... I think you need to get A.J. Terrell some help, but you also have, like, zero quarterback pressure. And I forget what your cap space looks like. I'm not a huge Karlaftis guy, but Karlaftis is here. I think, though, like, you take the best player available, in my opinion, and that's Derek Stingley. Like, I think he makes your secondary so much better. Like, immediately, because you already have a shutdown corner in A.J. Terrell. Now you have 2 shutdown corners, and you arguably have one of the best secondaries, definitely in the division, but maybe in the conference. Like, I think Derek Stingley and A.J. Terrell will be an insane duo for the Falcons. Pick 9, you have the Broncos. They need a quarterback. Like, I want to say, like, just draft your right tackle and roll with Teddy Bridgewater, but they need a quarterback, and they just fired Vic Fangio. I think I mentioned that at the beginning of the video. So now, like, and I think they kept John Elway is still the GM, or no, he stepped back from GM. I think. Anyways, at pick 9, we have the Denver Broncos. I think they really need an offensive tackle, but with a new head coach coming in, he's probably going to want his own quarterback. So for me, I'm taking Kenny Pickett here. At pick 9, I think it's a good enough spot where the Broncos are in a good enough situation to coach him and develop him with the receivers they have and the defense they have. Like, I think they need a right tackle for certain. But again, like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, this class is so deep. It's so deep at for the offensive line, like you could find it anywhere. Really, you could find it anywhere. Coming in at pick 10, we have the Jets, and they went Thibodeau with their first pick. I think they need a offensive lineman to get Zach Wilson some help. Again, like Kyle Hamilton's here at pick 10, which I actually really, really like. And like you really don't know what's going to happen with Marcus May if he's going to walk or not, but you double dip at edge, you get Karlaftis. That would be kind of interesting. But I think though, like you probably want to get offensive line help just because you have so many. Like I was definitely a little bit harsh on Mekhi Becton, but he really is always hurt, and like there is a saying, the best availability is availability. And Mekhi Becton is just not that. So I don't know. I think the pick here is either Kyle Hamilton or offensive line help. And I kind of think, though, like with how much they invested into the offensive line last year, and I also like forget what their cap space looks like. I think you go Kyle Hamilton. I mean, he's just there at pick 10. And like a lot of people don't like picking a safety that high, but if you look back to when Derwin James was drafted, everybody's like, oh, well, he should have been a top 10 pick. He should have been a top 10 pick. I mean, he fell because he's a safety. Like that is the whole reason he fell, is everybody was crying for positional value, which I agree with, but I also see the other side of like, this doesn't help. This doesn't make our strength stronger, right? So for instance, for the Steelers, they need someone who is going to make Najee Harris better. Not because their offense is going to run through Najee Harris no matter what they do. So, I mean, do with that what you will. But pick 11, the Washington football team. Kyle Hamilton's off the board, and Kenny Pickett's off the board. I still do like the idea of taking a wide receiver here and get Terry McLaurin some help. And Taylor Heineke's on he's on a 2-year contract, so next year's his last year. I don't know, like I feel like they finished the same record. They definitely need to bring in a quarterback, and Matt Corral is here, but again, like I don't really think people understand like I want to say how good that roster is, but again, like they're being held back by quarterback play, so does a wide receiver make them that much better? I don't think so, because Taylor Heineke is your quarterback, and he has a lot to do to develop. If he was to be your franchise guy, which I think after one full season, like, it just doesn't look like it. He's really he's kind of like a more athletic Teddy Bridgewater, in my opinion, with way more guts. Well, that's not true. But anyway, I think they're going to try to go for their quarterback of the future here with Matt Corral. I think at pick 11, it makes a lot of sense. Just, see what you have. You bring him in, let him compete with Heineke. If he beats him out, great. If he doesn't, he doesn't. But like this is a team where like their offensive line is good enough where they could protect Matt Corral, and they have a receiver for him in Terry McLaurin. But I want to see like how would Ron Rivera do with him, being that he's a defensive-minded coach. Like I think they really need to. Their offense is taking strides. This is the first season I think since 2015 with what's his name? Alfred Morris and Deshaun Jackson, that they had two or a 1,000-yard receiver and rusher with Antonio Gibson and Terry McLaurin this year. So we'll see. Like their offense gets better. I think with Matt Corral, it might be the missing piece they need to be competitive, depending on how good he is day one. I think Kenny Pickett would be great. I think they would 100% jump on Kenny Pickett at pick 11. Pick 12, we have the Vikings. I think this needs to be corner, but they did just fire Mike Zimmer, and I've been talking about for a while, like, do they go into the rebuild mode now that they missed the playoffs and they fired Mike Zimmer? And now they did fire Mike Zimmer, so now, like, it really begs the question, like, do they go rebuild? And I think if they go rebuild, their offensive line is decent. It's been playing better for the latter half of the season, I think. If I'm wrong, Vikings fans, just yell at me in the comments. But I think this pick needs to either be corner, edge, just because, like, Daniil Hunter is really, like, always hurt. Again, like, he's such a good talent, but he's always hurt. And you have Karlaftis here at pick 12. But you also have Andrew Booth, Sauce Gardner. I don't know why they pushed the corners all the way down on this predicted board. It really throws me off. But they have Booth is here, Roger McCreary is here, Kaiir Elam, Ahmad Gardner. It depends on what the Vikings are going to do moving forward. It really does. And to be honest with you, I have no idea what direction they're going to go for in 2022. Because a lot of their players are going into free agency. They're now in a rebuild because they have the head coach vacancy. I think you take the best player available, and to me that's George Karlaftis. But I think if you're going for positional need, you take Andrew Booth and you're going to give him time to develop. Now, I'm not saying the Vikings won't be competitive next year, but I do think they're going to have a year where they're kind of going to be in limbo, and that year for Andrew Booth I think is going to be very vital for when they're ready to compete again. Just my thoughts. If you don't like the pick, just let me know in the comments and we could talk about it. It's totally fine. Pick 13, which I think will be the Texans pick, but because it's the Browns pick, this is interesting. Because again, you have Karlaftis here, Myles Garrett. But I think you need a wide receiver. I really, 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 really think you need a wide receiver. I think you 100% need a wide receiver because your best receiving options are Donovan Peoples-Jones, Rashad Higgins, and Jarvis Landry. That's not okay. It's just not. And the production backs my point. And I think your defense is still good enough to where you, again, edge could be addressed later on. This is such a saturated edge class. I'm telling you, bro, it could be addressed in round 2. I'm going to take Jameson Williams. I think he's the best receiver in the class. I'm finally saying it, putting it on the record. I think he's the best receiver in the class. It would be 1A, Jameson Williams, 1B. Probably Garrett Wilson, and number 2 will be Treylon Burks, I think. But anyway, I want Jameson Williams for the Browns I went Jameson Williams for the Browns because I think that for Baker, he really he had Odell Beckham. It just wasn't a fit, but he needs someone who he could build chemistry with right away. It's not going to feel forced because they traded for him. They're just drafting him. They're going to see what he could do. But again, I think this is a Texans pick. So this could be Kenyon Green or another offensive lineman, or an edge rusher or whatever. But I think it makes the most sense with their needs. I think they could address it later on. That's just how I feel about it. Pick 14. I've taken George Karlaftis for the Ravens. I think Odafe Away just can't do it by himself, and maybe he takes the year 2 leap. But this Ravens team is so hurt, it's really hard to evaluate anybody. They're the most injured team in the league, I think, besides the Giants. I think they're neck and neck. They've been going back and forth all season long for injured reserve players and just players on the injury report. So with that being said, I think I just think for the Ravens, edge is a position. They're a team that is very, they're just always a good defensive team, and they're going to be able to run the ball. I think for their offense, they're going to try to make a lot of free agency acquisitions, maybe trade for Christian McCaffrey, maybe trade for Saquon Barkley, maybe sign Mike Williams. We'll see what they do. I think Mike Williams would be a very good fit on this team, to be honest with you, now that I say it out loud, just because they don't have that go up and get it receiver. They need that. They have Hollywood Brown, who's a burner, and Rashad Bateman, definitely I think will take a step next year. But Mike Williams might put some. If they get Saquon and Mike Williams, they might have a crazy, crazy offense. And they go out and draft George Karlaftis and address the defense. I think the Ravens are in such a good spot for next year that hopefully they just stay fire all of their athletic trainers and stay healthy. Pick 15, Philadelphia Eagles. I like Jameson Williams here, but he's gone. And with Jameson Williams gone, and now they're picking back-to-back again, I think you have the freedom to kind of draft how you see fit. And for me, the order matters, even though it's only a 2-team gap. I think the order definitely matters. I think they need, with these first 2 picks, I think they should go best defensive player available because the Chargers, or the Saints will definitely take a wide receiver. So you could account on one of your wide receivers being gone. Actually, maybe we take a wide receiver here because that kind of, one is going to be gone, so you might as well take your pick of the litter. And the Chargers are most likely going to take Jordan Davis or DeMarvin Leal in real life. So let's see here. Please, God, let my microphone have been on this entire time. Okay, it is. Whew! I think pick 15, best player on the board for their needs is Sorry, I just got a new microphone and it was making a weird light flash. I think we're going to go with Garrett Wilson. And then I think we're going to take the best corner off the board. I hate that I'm scrolling right now. I like Roger McCreary a lot. I know Gardner's here, who probably is the other pick, to be honest with you, but like I really like Roger McCreary. And I like Kyer Elam just because of the division, right? Like you got to go up against Kenny Golladay. You got to go up against I guess you don't have to go up against Kenny Golladay because he's either injured or not getting the ball thrown at him. Kenny Golladay, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Terry McLaurin. Like I think Kyer Elam matches up well with those physical receivers, where Ahmad Gardner probably the most balanced of the three, and then I think Roger McCreary can keep up with literally anybody. Like he would be a very good matchup for Kadarius Toney, or those speedster wide receivers in the division. So I think let's go with McCreary because I haven't done it yet. I think that would be a very solid pick. They need a corner, right? So, like, at this point, it's going to be whoever they take to pair up with Darius Slay. And I think you want to complement what Darius Slay's weaknesses are, right? So, he's very good at locking down the wide receiver one. Like, he gave Terry McLaurin fits this year. So, whoever you draft doesn't have to deal with Terry McLaurin. And Washington doesn't have a wide receiver two. Darius Slay locked up Kenny Golladay. Roger McCreary is going to match up well with Kadarius Toney. And Darius Slay is going to play well against or match up against Amari Cooper. And I would think that Roger McCreary could keep up with CeeDee Lamb. So we'll see like how it goes. I think this pick has to be either a defensive pick. The only reason I took a wide receiver before I went double defense is because of where the Saints are picking. And I'm confident the Saints will take a wide receiver. Pick 17. We have the Chargers, who, what a poor coaching display that was last night. Horrible coaching display. Really coached them out of the playoffs. Rookie head coach, rookie mistakes. We'll see how he does next year. Big old Brandon Staley with his McLovin cheeks. Anyway, I think that this is Jordan Davis or DeMarvin Leal, and I really do like Brandon Staley. Like, I think that you make mistakes. Now it's how you bounce back from your mistakes, right? He did very well coaching that defense. Like, he is like this. They hired him because he's supposed to be this coach who's going to revolutionize defensive schemes. I really like DeMarvin Leal for them because he's a hybrid player who's going to probably play edge, but you could also line him up on the inside. Whereas Jordan Davis, unless tonight we will know more about Jordan Davis against Alabama. His big thing is he really, really needs to learn or be able to show the ability to pressure the quarterback. Because right now he's a 2-down run stopper. That's it. Shout out to my boy Corey for explaining that to me, because I think he's right. Like I really do think he's right. Now, do I think Jordan Davis can take that step? Yes, but as of right now, he is right that he's a 2-down run stopper. But DeMarvin Leal, like, he is a way higher ceiling player with a pretty substantially low floor, or lower floor than Jordan Davis. Saints at pick 18. You got Chris Olave here. I think the Saints need a 2, which is why I like Olave here, because you have Michael Thomas. But, you know, Jameis Winston really was balling out, and I always say that in these videos, but he truly, truly was balling out. And he has a cannon of an arm. I really like Treylon Burks here. Like, just give him that receiver that could go up and get it like Michael Thomas. And have because Michael Thomas, you know, like, I really don't think people appreciate what Michael Thomas can do because he was constantly running slants. But, like, the next-gen stats from that season were he was the best route runner at almost every single route he ran, every style of route. Like, he was running slants because of Drew Brees, right? I think if they get Treylon Burks, it's going to be a nightmare for defenses in the NFC South, 100%. Pick 19. See, now a wide receiver's off the board, so maybe you wanted Burks, and he's gone. So I think at pick 19, I like linebacker here. I think that, like, you could add some linebacker depth, and I kind of have been harsh on Philly's linebacker room. but I do like the idea of getting them someone, like if I want to get a traditional Mike linebacker, and I think Philly, like I think Devin Lloyd would be a great pick for Philly. But if I want someone who could complement the linebackers we have, I would take Nakobe Dean. My issue with Nakobe Dean, though, like I think he is the better of the two, but his size, like he really is only, like he's only 6 foot flat, I think. Let's see what they have him listed as in Draft Network. Yeah, he's only 6 foot flat, but he's like he's just as fast as Micah Parsons. I'm really excited to see how he tests. I think if you want to, because think about the Eagles' position, right? They're like in a year where they made the playoffs, but they have so much capital to build for the future. I would take my future Mike linebacker for the future, right? Like Devin Lloyd, I think is 6'4", 6'3", 235. He's just a bigger athlete, not nearly as fast, but could drop into. He's great in coverage. I don't know, man. I think I would take Devin Lloyd just because of the position that the Eagles are in. Like, keep building for even though you're successful now, why stop building for your future? That's how I look at it, right? So, like, for them, I would like to build my Mike linebacker, like the backbone of my defense, while I'm already in a position where our defense is good enough to get us to the playoffs, right? And I'm not saying that to take away from the offense or Jalen Hurts or anything like that, but their defense has taken a huge leap this year. Like, it really has. So that's just my take on them. Pick 20. I think this is an easy pick for me. I think you go Kenyon Green. Just because, like, I think that the quarterback, like the best quarterback on the board is Sam Howell, right? Of who's left. Does he have the highest upside? No. Am I someone who believes in reaching for your franchise quarterback because you need one? No, I'm not. I would rather get a stopgap guy for a year, see what he could do, and just build the team for when I know I have my franchise guy. Because I don't want to put them in a position like Joe Burrow or Justin Herbert or Kyler Murray where they have to overcome all these odds and obstacles to be great. Now, those guys are the exception where they were great anyway. Both of them won Offensive Rookie of the Year in Justin Herbert and Kyler Murray. Joe Burrow, unfortunately, got hurt. Thank God it wasn't career-ending. But, like, and it was a fluke thing. Like, I get it. But still, like, I want to put them in the best position to succeed unless I know it's my guy. Like, if it was Justin Herbert, like, I'm just going to draft them, which is what the Chargers did, and they were fantastic pick. Anyways, pick 21 is the Patriots. I think this is cornerback. I like it to be receiver, but with Treylon Burks gone, and you kind of need someone to replace N'Keal Harry, I like them going out and signing someone. We've seen that Bill is now no stranger to just dropping bands all over free agency. He spent more in 1 year than like the past 10 years combined, which is wild. So, like, if they need a receiver, they go out and buy Mike Williams. Allen Robinson is someone who I'm looking to see if the Patriots go after. So for me, I think I think it makes more sense to go after a corner here, and that's why I'm taking Ahmad Gardner. Like, I think Ahmad Gardner, I just think he's probably the best corner on the board. He could have went instead of Roger McCreary at pick 16. And I just know that the Patriots love their corners. They always have corner depth. Anyway, pick 22. So this is interesting now because Deshaun Watson in my book is essentially off the table just because his big reason, according to reports, to go to Miami was Brian Flores, right? Now Brian Flores is gone as of January 10th at 11 a.m. So odds are the Dolphins keep this pick. And I don't know why they fired Brian Flores, man. Like, I just think that was a bad decision. And I know, like, a lot of Dolphin fans are gonna say, like, well, he couldn't build an offense, he couldn't create an offense. I would kind of push back and be like, well, your offensive line is poo, which I think is kind of non-arguable. I think if you're a Dolphins fan, you would agree with that. And he did have to win with Jacoby Brissett for a good stretch until Tua came back. And I think that well, maybe it wasn't the worst decision because, like I've said before, I think that win streak was very lucky, not in anything the Dolphins did, but just how the schedule unfolded. They only played, I think, 2 starting quarterbacks and 1 rookie quarterback in Well, they lost to Ryan Tannehill. They beat Lamar Jackson, which was very impressive. But they also played like Zach Wilson, Trevor Siemian, excuse me, Ian Book, Mike Glennon. It's not anything against the Dolphins, but it was just a very fortunate series of events of how it fell, like just how the schedule fell. So nothing against them, but I think this pick should be someone who's going to either immediately make your offensive line better or someone who's going to make your offense better. And I like Chris Olave here as a 2 to complement Jalen Waddle, who's going to be your 1. But I've really started to grow. Like, Jahan Dotson has really started to grow on me, and I think he could be like a very talented wide receiver 1 and make Jalen Waddle's. I don't think he'll be. Now, let me back up. I don't know if he'll be better than Jalen Waddle, but I think they will be a very, very successful complementary wide receivers core, especially for Tua. Just because of like their route concepts, how they operate in an offense. Like Jahan Dotson at Penn State is really carrying the team. Like, I think he's going to be a very good fit, especially like, let's say the Dolphins bring in like a Doug Peterson or like Kellen Moore, someone who is a great offensive. Okay, let me back up. Doug Peterson is nowhere near the same level as Kellen Moore. But if they brought in Kellen Moore and he has Jalen Waddle to play with, Jahan Dotson to play with, like, I think it'll be, and like, the Dolphins are going to be a team that draft a running back this year. Like, they will 100% will, whether it's in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, whenever they do it, they will do it. And I don't know, man. Like, I like them taking a receiver here. Just because, like, Nicky P, I'm still pretty high on him, but I know a lot of people are backing off of him. And I want to do more. I want to really dive into, like, making bold claims on these prospects once I have done more film study after the season ends and once I see the combine. But they need someone like Trevor Penning would be a pretty bad pick here, in my opinion, because I don't think they want someone they're going to have to develop. I think they want the most pro-ready offensive line help if they were to go offensive line, in my opinion. And then at pick 23, I think this is a good spot for Jordan Davis. But again, like I think Rick Bisaccia's job is safe because they just made the playoffs. Maybe. I don't really know if it is safe. But does Derek Carr leave in the offseason is the question. And if that's the case, like, I think they would take a Sam Howell here. But let's just go off of what they need. And let's take... I don't know why my microphone is yelling at me. Because it just yelled at me in OBS, and now I'm getting scared. But I think they take the best player available. And for me, like, best player available for the positions that they need is Jordan Davis. It just begs the question, like, do they want to start building the offensive line? In that case, I take Trevor Penning. But let's go ahead and take Jordan Davis here at pick 23. I think he's someone who's going to fix one of their big issues of stopping the run. Like, I think he could take care of that right away. I think he's going to take care of it for any team that needs to stop the run. He's just a space eater. He's a 2-down run stuffer, and hopefully they can coach him to take that next step and be able to pressure the quarterback from the middle of the field, because then he evolves into a 3-down player who could do everything. At pick 24, we have the Cardinals. And I've been thinking about this pick for a while. Red Sea, my boy Corey, thinks he wanted Kenyon Green here. And he didn't answer me last time. Maybe he answered me while I've been filming. But I think that the reason he wants Kenyon Green is for interior offensive line help or right tackle help. Or left tackle help, potentially. And the pick I want to make here is Trevor Penning, because I think the Cardinals are talented enough to groom him into an elite line prospect. But my concern is Trevor Penning is 6'7". Kyler Murray, I think, is 6'2" on a good day. And that's my... Like, a whole 5 inches is half a foot, basically. And that could be a huge issue. You could go Nicholas Petit for Nicky P, but I don't know, man. Like, Darian Kennard's here if they need a right guard or right tackle. Here's my thing with the Cardinals, right, with just how this board fell out. I don't like Trevor Penning to the Cardinals because of the height thing, right? Now, I have been an advocate for saying they desperately need help on their defensive line. And I think their defense does kind of need, not an overhaul, but it needs more depth at corner and edge particularly, and definitely on the interior part of the D-line, so their whole D-line basically, and their secondary. I think Jermaine Johnson is going to fly up the draft board once they test. But I'm excited to see how Trayvon Walker does tonight, and because of the national championship being today, I'm going to take Trayvon Walker. I think he's in a very similar case to David Ojabo, where we're kind of just scratching the surface with him, and maybe, actually no, not maybe, definitely, if he's on the same team with J.J. Watt, this is a situation where you could take a high upside player because you have a very successful veteran who could show him what works and what doesn't work and see how he plays. And I think Trayvon Walker, honestly may go back to school. Just saying. I don't think he's declared yet. We'll probably find out this week after the national championship. But, pair him with J.J. Watt and see what you could get out of him, and now you might have, an elite edge rusher in 2 years. If you don't, I think the two best interior D-line players are already off the board, so you could take Devontae Wyatt, but I would rather see how he tests before we go that route. Just because, being completely honest, I haven't watched enough tape on him. I haven't watched, I don't know enough about him to say, oh, he's definitely a first-round pick. Again, one of the things that I really care about on this channel is quality over quantity, and I just can't, in good conscience, make a claim on Devontae Wyatt that I know nothing about. I'm sorry, I can't. For Trayvon Walker, I do know about him, and I do know he is a very high upside player. It just depends, where do the Cardinals want to go? Do they want to go secondary? Do they want to go interior D-line? Do they want to go edge? And I think, going edge here would be a very solid pick because of how late you'd be picking into the second round. Maybe you could take a Kingsley and Agbarie player if he falls, but a lot of people think he's going to go first round. And I've drafted him in the back end of the first a few times. But I don't know, man. I just... The Cardinals are tough for me. And, Corey, your stance keeps changing every week. So it's hard for me to keep up. But I do appreciate your analysis, and I think you do a very good job. So just want to throw that shout out there. Again, once I get Corey stuff, I think his writer name is Red Sea. I know that's his Instagram handle. But I will link it once he gives it to me, once he starts his job. He does a really good job for the Cardinals. If you're a Cardinals fan, you should definitely check out his stuff. Anyway, pick 25, the Bengals. I still think this needs to be a tackle. And I like the idea of Trevor Penning and just getting someone, because their offense has been great, and Trevor Penning could be an elite run blocker and pass blocker just based off of how raw he is. And I think since how much success the Bengals have had this season, it makes a lot of sense to take a high upside guy who you could potentially develop. And he's 6'7". Yeah, he's 6'7", 320. Absolute beast. He's an absolute beast. But the thing is, I get the knock. He plays at Northern Iowa, blah, 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 blah. But, when he tests, I think he's going to test very, very well. Just from the tape I've watched, he's one of those... I talk about this a lot on the channel. There's two types of offensive linemen. There's the fundamental blocker, and there's the mauler beast, like Mekhi Becton. I think Trevor Penning could be a fundamental player. Now, again, he's going up against talent who's not that great. Excuse me, but I think he could be really good, especially with how the Bengals have been able to coach up their team. I think putting him in the Bengals' hands would be a very good idea, if that makes sense. Pick 26. I think that this needs to be a pick that makes their running game better because they cannot run the ball. Hardly at all. Even though, actually, scratch that. And this could just be credit to Devin Singletary, but Devin Singletary has been balling the past few weeks. Honestly. Is he the answer? No. Can they make holes bigger for him? Yes. I think they just really need help at guard. And I think that Darian Kennard is going to be a pretty, I don't want to say elite, but a very good right guard in the NFL. He might play right tackle, but if he goes to the Bills, I would assume they stick him at right guard and see what happens. Maybe they start him at tackle, see how he does, and move him back to guard or move him to guard. But I think they need to help the interior offensive line there. And, like, I've drafted a receiver here a lot, which I think is still very much in play. But, again, there's so many free agents available at the wide receiver position. Like, I think it's smart to address your weaknesses in the most efficient way possible. Whereas offensive line would be way more expensive in the free agent market versus wide receiver in the free agent market because of how many there are. But again, that could be wrong because, like, for instance, if they put a bid on Mike Williams and they keep getting outbid and the price keeps going up and up and up and up and up, then I don't know. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Depends on what you get. It depends on the product you pay for, if it's worth it or not. Pick 27 is the Lions. They need a receiver. And I kind of have gone back and forth of, like, they're picking, I think, pick 3 in the second round. Pick 3 or pick 2. And that could be a receiver, as in Chris Olave's here, Drake London's here, George Pickens is here, Mechie's here. We'll see how this receiver class falls out into the second round. Really, you're picking in 7 picks, because 5 here, and I think they're pick 2. You could take the best corner available, which I don't think is a bad idea, because I think the corner definitely will be gone if you wait. And you have Trent McDuffie, who's a great talent. But I really think, though, since your offense is in such a bad position where Amon-Ra St. Brown is, like, your only viable receiving option, and you have Josh Reynolds and, like, Khalif Raymond or whatever his name is, I think you want that true number 1, and for me, it's Drake London. Like, I think Drake London can be an elite wide receiver if he could develop into what Michael Pittman did. And Michael Pittman is, like, honestly does not get enough credit. Like, he is so underrated. I think he has close to 1,100 yards and nobody's talking about it. He's having a great year in a run-first offense with Carson Wentz. Like, nobody's talking about Michael Pittman, and Drake London is essentially the same player from the same school. So we'll see what happens with him. Pick 28, we have the Dallas Cowboys. I think this should be corner 2, personally, just with no disrespect to Trayvon Diggs. He did let up 1,000 yards in coverage this season. I mean, he did. Like, it's a fact. He did have the 11 takeaways, but he did let up, I think he's one of 2 receivers that let up 1,000 yards in coverage. And it could be safety here, because I think 2 of your safeties are not retiring, but going into free agency. And then you have, I forget who, Keanu Neal, is it? Or did they convert him to linebacker? I forget. But pick 28, I think this should be a defensive pick. I think Cedric Wilson will play the number 3 role very well when Michael Gallup leaves, especially now that he tore his ACL. They're definitely not going to re-sign him. But again, like, Chris Olave is here, so maybe you just want to take it and make sure that you're covered because, I mean, they have a crazy wide receiver core. But, wow, Nakobe Dean fell all the way to 28. That's kind of wild. They definitely don't need linebacker. I just realized that. But I don't think they need edge. I think it's corner or safety for me, and I'm going to take Trent McDuffie out of Washington. I think this is someone, when he tests, is going to test very well. I like Khair Elam a lot, but he's kind of taken a step back this year from what he's put on display in previous years. Actually, let's take Khair Elam. I think he just matches up really well in the NFC East. I really think I think he does a very good job. He'll match up well against Devontae Smith. He'll match up well against Terry McLaurin. He'll match up well against Kenny Golladay because he is that big, long type of cornerback. Like, the concern is, does he have another level? Like, his upside seems to have diminished a little bit this year because of the play he's put on display this year. But anyways, pick 29. I think this should be defense. Because, again, like, you could take a receiver in free agency or something like that, and you have Nakobe Dean that fell all the way to pick 29, which is kind of crazy. I don't know how that happened. But I think that's the pick here if you're the Chiefs. You either need to go corner or edge or linebacker, in my opinion. Because Because safety, like, you could take Daxton Hill here, which is not a bad pick at all. I just don't think it's the biggest need for your defense, even though your defense has been balling lately. I think you want to take the best player available, and for me, that could be Jermaine Johnson if you need to go edge. Nakobe Dean is an absolute steal at 29. That's why I think you just have to take him. Like, he should not be here at pick 29. Shame on me for letting that happen. So my mic was muted when I made the McDuffie pick because I had to make a work call. But basically, all you missed was I took McDuffie for the Bucs because I think that they need to add depth to their secondary, and I think they could definitely add depth to their offensive line. But I think with how the board kind of has played out, you want to go with the best corner available, especially in a team that's in Super Bowl contention. And I think your offensive line is already good enough. Now you can never have too much offensive line depth, but I think Trent McDuffie is probably one of the most talented players left on the board. And I think that it makes a lot of sense. And then for pick 30, the reason why I had wide receivers pulled up is because I think that since there's no really elite linebacker left, there's still players like Brandon Smith, Christian Harris, stuff like that. But I think you would want to go receiver here, especially with how the board has kind of fallen. A player to excuse me, that I'm keeping an eye on is George Pickens. Is because I think once testing happens and after tonight's game, I think George Pickens is going to fly up draft boards because he was someone before he got hurt that was assumed to be in the first round. Then he got hurt, so his stock went down. But once he tests, and we'll see what happens tonight if he plays, I'm pretty sure he's playing tonight, I think his draft stock is going to go up. And for the sake of this video, I'm taking Chris Olave because I think he would be a great compliment to A.J. Brown. But I'm telling you, I think George Pickens will finish in the first round conversation. I really do believe that. And then for the Packers at pick 32, I think they need tackle help because their offensive line kind of for a lot of the season has been like a hodgepodge of injuries and bench players and practice squad players. I think they need more offensive line depth, especially moving forward if Rodgers is gone and Jordan Love has to step in because he looked horrible last night or yesterday. I think Nicky P would be a solid pick here. Or they could take a high upside player who's a very raw player in Bernard Raymond. I know Bangle is really high on him. He's a player kind of like Odafe Away and David Ajabo who, just started playing football recently and has moved to the United States from another country. I think he's from Austria. But for this video, I think let's take the best offensive lineman available left on the board, and that would be Nicky P. Anyway, guys, that's going to do it for this video. That's going to do it for mock draft number 9. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Peace!